Thanks to our sponsors Renault. The Renault Capture, stylish on the outside and spacious on the inside.
Hey, mama on the
Pretty good, Dalo.
Come and love you, daddy, all night long.
And you? What do you do?
It's a bit complicated to explain.
Hey, hey.
You know, I still didn't get exactly what your job is.
That is what I do.
New Renault Arcana E-Tech Hybrid from €299 per month on the road. Winner, Irish Medium Crossover SUV in the 2022 Car of the Year Awards.
A grain of rice. A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game. Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you all?
Dalo, how are you? How are you, lads?
No,
Hey,
Liverpool
Ken.
hat
Hi,
this
Dalo.
morning, Dalo.
You didn't bother with the Liverpool hat, Tej?
Yeah, I suppose just a little bit disappointing. I thought it was on there for a second. When I left the ground, Aston Villa were 2-0 up, was walking out of Thurles, and by the time I got to the car, it was 2-2. And we were still 1-1. I kind of was confident enough we'd get the winner, but then they scored. And then shortly after that, I got a WhatsApp from some fella with a quad and the wheels coming off it.
Is that,
Do you know what,
is that the
Dalo?
second championship?
And the worst thing
I put
about
on a
it
little
was,
bit
it
of
came
light
from
blue.
Yeah, it came from a Man United man. That was the worst thing about it. To celebrate the
United
City
crowd
winning
are
the
on.
league,
They're,
like
they're big fans of City.
I see that, yeah. I think maybe
Well,
it might be
Dalo-
one team in the future, just Manchester.
I was on to Alexa there this morning, and I asked her a question. I said, Alexa, how many premierships have Liverpool won? And do you know what the response was? Liverpool FC have won one, the same as Leicester City. Ha ha ha.
Did you ask her? Did you ask her about the
TJ.
leagues? No.
TJ, is that
Then
the
I asked
second?
her how many premierships. I asked her how many premierships Manchester United won, and she said, for the record, Manchester United have 13 premierships won since it was formed. So that's enough for me. I must say, I was really delighted for all the Liverpool supporters yesterday. You really must have thought you had won, maybe two hands in the title when the boys were 2-0 in. And like Micheál Hurtig said there a couple of years ago, if you turn away for 30 seconds, it's a long time. And turned away for 5 minutes yesterday, Man City got 3 goals. For some finish to the season now, I'd have to say.
I'm wondering, is Marco, is that
Match fixing scandal, TJ. Don't worry, it'll be all sorted.
Yeah. Give it 7 days. Might be in 7 days, Marco. We might be able to win another Champions League. Anyway,
Well,
TJ.
I must say, I will have to
hurling.
admit, it was me that sent in the picture, right, of Jurgen Klopp and the quad and the 2 wheels after coming off, like, you know, off the quadruple, because I tell you, you'd have to do some spoofing for the last couple of months about the quadruple, like.
Sure, it was on.
Was in fairness. But look, next Saturday night will be a very interesting night because we will be in your home parish doing the Shea for Dave. So
my next door parish in Bayland or Shea for Dave, yeah. And we were kind of saying it was going to be a lovely build up to Limerick and Clare in the Munster final, but myself and Dalo having a chat about it. But after yesterday, people can look forward to the Rebels being back, Dalo, and the noise. You just can't help yourselves, in fairness. You can't. The flag is up again this morning. Oh my God!
4 points, like they're 4 points, like, and they're roaring like they're after winning 5 All-Irelands in a row. TJ, I was going to ask you, is that the second championship that Stevie Gerrard cost you?
Yeah. Well, I suppose we can't, in fairness, blame Gerrard. So look, it was we were hoping for the best from Villa, and in fairness to them, they gave us massive hope with 2-0 up. Like, but look, the league table doesn't lie, Dalo, as you will be talking about in a while, I'm sure. And in fairness to City, like, they've been an incredible team. They've 90 odd points. We just have an incredible team at the moment, which we're happy to follow and celebrate in. And we have another big date coming up. And look, we will bow to City on this occasion. Fantastic team. No complaints. At the end of 38 games, the team on top deserves to win the title.
I suppose, TJ, if you don't win the Champions League now, the FA Cup will be a big win for you. But the Coca-Cola Cup, like, will you be given the schoolwork off with the kids when they go with the cup and stuff like that now for the Coca-Cola Cup, like?
Yeah, sure. Look, Marco, I would always be in favour of any old bit of trophy or any silverware that you can win. You should celebrate it. That would be always my motto, whether it be an old league or a South Championship or whatever it is. But if you can win something, celebrate it. Otherwise,
Okay.
why are you playing?
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair point.
We leave the soccer there just to say to Mr. Larry Ryan, Mr. Tony Lean, Mr. Michael Healy up in Creed, Mr. Pádraig Russell in Leeds, to Mr. John Mulqueen in Bruff, etc., etc. Your boys took one hell of a beating, and Champions League football will be returning to North London, but at White Hart Lane. At White Hart Lane, not the Emirates. Cheerio.
Okay.
It's hard to believe it. It's hard to believe it, Dalo, but you actually screw up in the unfairnessy.
Conte ball, Mark, Conte ball. So Shawnee Barry be booking the tickets for Champions League game in London Town in the autumn. We will tip over there and support the lads. Get in the lads. But yeah, Larry, we'll be digging out that article there. I'll dig it out later on. I'll be putting it up on Twitter. That foolish article you wrote at the end of February. But anyway, you'll be learning, Larry. You'll try to double down on it there Friday or Saturday as well. So, lads, extraordinary weekend hurling in lots of ways. I suppose yesterday lacked the sort of intensity or, that big question mark sort of stuff that Wexford and Kilkenny brought us on Saturday night. But by the same token, lots of talking points. Clare 3-31, Waterford 2-22. As we were debating, and I'm going to remind you all again that I tipped Clare to be in the 3, but we did we think, we thought it was Waterford and Limerick and Waterford probably in that order, and we've a straight scrap between the three of us, Ken, Mark and my crowd for third. Like, none of us saw this Waterford collapse coming, especially the beat Tipp, got the 2 points on the road, following on down in Walsh Park, following on from the league final. Like, where has it all gone wrong, lads? It's just amazing stuff. The way the team was lined out yesterday, all-star fullback left off, hurler of the year on National League territory left off. They did have injuries. We really want to send our good messages to Tig de Burka. Hopefully, Tig, everything is okay for you. You've been an outstanding hurler, one way to admire always on this show. So I hope you have a bit of luck this time around. But it's gone awful wrong for them, lads, isn't it?
Hard to believe, Dalo. Yeah, I will just add to that. I saw them in Limerick against Limerick, and I thought that even though they didn't win the game, I still thought they were in decent health. I know you questioned it at the time, Dalo, that Limerick were a good bit ahead, given the players that they were missing. I still thought intensity-wise and what they were trying to do, and I felt that they missed a few frees and things. I thought everything was fine. I certainly didn't see the button that they pressed coming. I just did not see that. I just thought that the Cork defeat certainly knocked them for 6. And yesterday was hard to believe. I was even thinking yesterday they might still have a small chance that they'd go and beat Clare without Tony Kelly, without John Conlon. Like, Johan had made 6 changes. You would have said that it was set up for them. Like, there was some semblance of talk that Waterford might have had the strongest panel heading into the championship. That was out there, given what they had done in the league final, and just could not see it coming. And I think that, I don't know, like, I heard John Milan, I was listening to Radio 1 coming home, and he was on about the team being leaked and maybe things not being right. I don't know. I have no connect with what's happened inside the Waterford camp as to what went wrong, but there's certainly something that went wrong. I wouldn't for 1 second think the leaking of a team was the problem. Like, that definitely had no semblance as to how the team played. But obviously over the last couple of weeks, whether it was an energy or whether it was a system breakdown or what, like, but something significant happened to the team that won the league final. Like, there is no way they went from where they were in the league to where they were at the end of the championship yesterday. And I would say, like, tricky one for them now, like, even if we say as a squad and as a management, and like bit of thinking required for the summer. I don't know what the story with all of them would be, but like, I again heard rumblings about it all was not well, but you hear that sometimes, and I suppose we all tend to make excuses when you don't get the results. So yeah, just an amazing fall from where they were a number of weeks ago, to think that they couldn't even rattle the top 3 in Munster.
Yeah. Ken,
Yeah.
would you think did they put too much into the league, Ken? Do you know it was the closest league ever to the championship. We all and you look at Clare and Limerick, they drew with each other and they both beat Offaly, and that was it. You know, so
Yeah, Ballygunner, of course, winning the All-Ireland club as well into the bargain, which would usually bring back guys in savage form and in great form to play at the highest level. I mean, Burr did that with Offaly, and Offaly won a couple of All-Irelands the years that Burr would have won the All-Ireland club. So I just think that I remember Brian mentioning just going down. They went down in the league to play Waterford in Walsh Park, and the bus was passing by Carrigan-Ower. And Waterford's, as you mentioned, their second team or second panel were actually out training. They were training intensely on the pitch, and they were passing by. So Liam and Mikey and the lads were out there with him, and then obviously going into Walsh Park to play their first team against Tipp in the National League. So they obviously put a savage amount of work into it. There was rumblings that they had trained very, very hard since the Cork game, that week of the Cork game. They trained hard. As you well know, lads, when it comes into championship season, even though we're still only mid-May-ish, you don't train that hard. It's all about maintenance and obviously fine-tuning the team and getting the tactics right and getting the most important thing, the head above the shoulders. Like yesterday was hugely disappointing, you know, from the point of view of both games that were totally uncompetitive. It was knockout situation in both games. It should have been helter-skelter. To see scorelines like 3-31, 3-30 is absolutely terrible in a knockout scenario, considering what I saw in Nolan Park on Saturday night. So from that perspective, I just don't know what has gone wrong. I did see the team. I'm always at lastminute.com. I saw the Waterford team before the game actually started, and I was rushing into do the match. And I said, Jeannie Christ, all these changes. It doesn't look good. It doesn't harbour well. And you have to retain confidence in the players that have done it for you, and to try and give a message out. And maybe thinking, like, if Clare had a full team, would Waterford have made those changes? I don't know. But Clare were without 6. And everybody got sucked into this thing, lads, that sure, Clare will be down for the poke around. They'll only go through the motions. Sure, lads, we know Brian Lohan, and we'll give Brian Lohan huge credit this morning. We know Brian Lohan. I'd say Dalo, if he was playing a game of tiddlywinks with you, he'd take the head off you to win it. So from that perspective, you saw the crowd was in earnest yesterday, but it was a total capitulation by Waterford. Yeah,
we used to have famous games of table tennis on the holidays, and you could not beat him. Like he'd say, "We play one more set," you know. And you could even see we had the two screens inside the RT box, and of course we were meant to be focused on what was in front of us, but I was having the odd glance, obviously, back at Cusick Park, and you could see his body language was huge. But I have to ask him, Marco, like I made an awful boo-boo after Kilkenny beat Hammer Dublin in 12, and I said, so spur of the moment, I said, sure, if we picked up 15 at the Red Cow, we'd have put up a better battle than we did. And we were still in the championship, and all I could do on the Tuesday night was go in and apologise profusely to the players. I should not have said it, and we were all in it together. But I suppose I got a hint of that off Liam's interview that he's responsible. I didn't get that hint last week. I thought there was a lot that players were told to do certain things, or they had plans and the plans went out the window once they crossed the white lines. And is it dangerous with players like that kind of talk? The players can say, we're the ones killing ourselves here, and especially with an outside manager as well, Mark.
Yeah, well, that's a very valid point that, you know, and he's 3 years down there now, and sometimes players will feel once they get a little bit aggrieved, they can move a fella on, and they have the power to do that. Like the players, we've seen that in a good few places where the players do move managements on. But you would have to say like that this is the second time really that the Waterford players have down tools for a manager, because they did the same thing for Pádraig Fanning a number of years ago. And the interesting thing, that I'm sure Pádraig Fanning got them to a league final as well that year. I think they were beaten by Clare now, if memory serves me right. But like to think that they won the league so impressively, and they had played so impressively. Limerick, yeah, sorry, Tej. But like in a short period of time, then again from a number of years back to now, they have down tools again. And like you'd have to say, like, I know in the Cork game things went against them. I thought Stephen Bennett missed a good few frees that would have kept him ticking over and got him closer. And every time he missed a free, it was like Cork scored one. But the morale and the spirit seemed to have gone from them. But to think that Clare left off 5 or 6 of their better known players yesterday, and then the lads get well beaten. And barring Desi Hutchinson, I suppose, and Patrick Curran, who played really well, and the rest of them didn't play well, and that's a major concern. And I think this Waterford situation isn't over yet either, Dalo. Whether Liam Cahill will be in situ at the end of the season I'd say it's very questionable now. And we'd have to say, we think that Cahill has done a magnificent job. Those Waterford players have been magnificent all year so far, up to maybe the Cork game last weekend. And we did say, TJ, we were at the league final sitting together, that even though Waterford comprehensive winners on the day, Cork were on their coattails a number of times, and Waterford got goals to push them out again. So I thought at the time, and I mentioned this in Dungarvan as well, that I felt the Cork might be a little bit better than what the scoreline would have given them. But the complete capitulation yesterday is something that has to be questioned now. There's obviously something not right, because they still had a chance of qualification yesterday. And you would be buying up your team and saying, listen, if we win this game, at least give us the fighting chance. And after 10 minutes or 15 minutes in yesterday's game, when Tipp led 1-3 to no score, you were slightly concerned. So, I mean, the scoreline or the board is up there in front of us. It's hard to believe that anybody would have predicted that Waterford wouldn't have been in the top 3, or even maybe tipping in the bottom with no point after 4 games. So there's a lot of stuff there. And fair play to your own county, Dalo. We probably didn't give you the credit that you now deserve, and we'll be certainly sitting up and taking notice for the rest of the season. You've had a remarkable, I would say, performance. And I suppose last year, it took a Patrick Collins save. I would say the Cork were the better team on that occasion, but you could have put us out of the championship and extended year. But when you have a player like Tony Kelly in your team, and he's an exceptional player, lads, a bit like Lee Chin for Wexford, anything can happen. And Dalo, hats off, boy. In fairness to you, you're in the Munster final and well deserving. And we'll be looking forward. I think there's going to be a great Munster final ahead.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we're sitting here with a little bit of a smile of satisfaction this day, 2 weeks of some sort. Anyway, that we gave them some bit of a game. But just to talk about Clare a little bit, I only saw the Sunday game, and what I saw inside in the van trying to watch it and getting replays and stuff. There's a one-man team, but he's not playing, and we scored 331. Now, from talking to a few friends that were there, great crowd again, 16,500, great atmosphere, but they could not believe Eibhear Quilligan's puck out. So it's just able to find a midfielder or a wing forward in 8 to 10 yards of space. He couldn't fail to miss a puck out, I think, before Brian gave Eamon Foodie a run near the end of it. But a lot of good coming out of Clare at the moment. They're kind of loving their hurling team, aren't they? Duggan and O'Donnell again, seemingly just unreal. They had no answer to them.
All positive come from Clare at the moment, considering, let's say, 12 months ago. And I would even go as far as say, let's say the under-17s, and I know they didn't get a result on Saturday, but where they've come in 12 months, and the under-20s this year, if you think where Limerick were in the All-Ireland final the weekend, that Clare team was very, very close to the Limerick team. So a lot of positives there. And Lohan deserves huge credit, because he probably stuck with something that was sticky at the time, and it was messy, and there was lots of little things going on, and might have been easy, from his lifestyle and given what he's doing, it's an amateur job and work. It might have been easy to step away from, but he stuck with it, and he has turned this ship, and he has it sailing now with everyone rowing in the same direction, which is massive. On the field, to talk about Eibhear Quilligan, I've seen 2 or 3 puckouts from Eibhear against Limerick that were just off the charts. He zipped the ball 70, 80 yards, let's say, into a guy's hand against Limerick. That was incredible. He has improved immensely on the puck out. It's massive. And I'm going to say 3 players maybe obviously we all know what Tony Kelly can do, and some of the younger players have been very good. But go back to last year, Shane O'Donnell back is massive. Obviously he's playmaking. He's just a seriously intelligent player. He chipped in with 5 points yesterday. Massive. That's a huge plus for any team. The Duggan effect is huge as well, because it just changes the system. And I even seen Duggan against Limerick was just drop it into me. He's not looking for the perfect ball. He can catch it left or right. He's kind of saying, just get it in, low, high, whatever, he can deal with it. And there's probably a third factor as well for me is Davy Mack I'd say is now hurling back close to maybe what we all probably thought he could do and what we have seen in the past, right? So he's nearly like a new player from as well, maybe playing in a position because he had played in maybe 3 or 4 different positions, say maybe in all the defensive positions, maybe in midfield, but having a huge bearing on it. John Conlon thing is working at centre back, Tony Kelly working in between the lines. It's simplistic, but it's working beautifully for them. I said from a puck outs to having Duggan at full forward, and now to have the flexibility to bring on a few other players and give them the spin out. Like, can you imagine the buzz and training in Clare this week, given what you just did, preparing for a Munster final? I don't know, like, what's the story with Rodgers, Dalo? Is he going to feature or?
I think he may have had another slight setback, TJ, and he wouldn't be a reality for 2 weeks' time. I think it's very hard to hear anything.
He's 15 player, isn't he?
Yeah, they still think he'll feature. I think now that the kind of quarter-final spot is guaranteed, because sure, look, he'll be winning the Munster final, but they still think he'll feature later on, you know.
Yeah, so. What I will say is you cannot, I would imagine, from a Clare point of view, give enough credit to what Lohan has done. He has really, really turned everything around from a Clare perspective, and the team is hurling like him. They're very, very difficult to beat. Do you know what I mean? Their head is down and they are driving on. Like, and as I said, if ever a team maybe encapsulated everything about their manager, as I said, Lohan has got that, and they said the crowds now are turning out, and yeah, dangerous animal now, Dalo, as you'd say yourself. I can tell you that now, and I know you'll be playing it down, and we'll chat more about it down the road. But look, fully.
You're not cutting anyone at all here, TJ.
Okay, look, you finished top. As you said to me a while ago, the league table doesn't lie.
Yeah, look who's back. Because that went viral last week, man.
Did it?
Yeah,
Guess who's back?
The Rebels
Back again. Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Good stuff, lads. That was Ennis. Ken, they came and they saw and they conquered. The flag is up behind him. They took over the place. Rebels out in the field afterwards. And I was leaving the box. The field was covered in Cork supporters meeting their heroes. They're back, Ken. They're back.
Yeah, and I really appreciate Larry Ryan, contacting me last night to come on this morning. Really
fair play.
Really 11th-hour selection here. Really decent thing to do to me this morning, lads. So
if you have the neighbour, you have nothing.
It's just a good company. That's what I enjoy, right? So I met Mark before the game. Obviously, Cork were really up for the game. You sense that coming into the match. Had that Munster Championship flavour. I felt coming into the match that, Jesus, Tipp have to show something here. I had the pleasure of being in Kilkenny, as I said. I saw a knockout game where everything was put on the line. I felt, there was an inkling that Clare, as you mentioned, knowing Brian Lohan's body language before the game, that they could do a number on Waterford. That subsequently, obviously, turned out to happen. We got into a huge start. Great goal from Jake Morris straight from the start. What more do you want? Went 5 up, then got a penalty. My initial reaction, and I suppose, as you know, I'm the number 1 Noel McGrath fan club and it hit the post, hugely unfortunate. I thought Collins had saved it myself. I'd be always giving the benefit out to the keeper. But Jason Ford has been taking our penalties for a number of years and is an outstanding score getter and goal taker. And my initial surprise, I mentioned it on radio, was, why is Jason not taking the penalty? But Noel struck it well. Noel has been playing well, 13 points again yesterday, carrying us on his back, literally, himself and Ronan Maher. So from that perspective, back down the field and a humdinger of a goal at the other end for young Alan Connolly. Totally turned the game, but after that was embarrassing stuff, really, because 2-14 to 1-6 at half time. Do you know what I mean? Coming through there, wondering what was going to happen next. Cork were in such a comfortable position right throughout the game. And the sad thing for us is that, even the scoreline didn't reflect the superiority of Cork. And, it goes hard for me to say that because of the fact that it was a Munster Championship class, it was knockout for both teams. Cork came after getting that sucker punch at the start of the game, but they really showed what they were about. They have Joyce at centre back now. Darragh Fitzgibbon firing on all cylinders, and of course Mark Coleman came back to his best. We probably allowed it, And of course, the man I've been championing all along with Mark there last year, lads, you have to put your hands up and admit it. I kept saying to him, where's Conor Lehan? Where's Conor Lehan? And, you know, to any hurling man, you know that Conor Lehan has the class. Obviously, the big stage, people have questioned this, that, and the other. But in the last couple of games, he's come up trumps for Cork. Outstanding again yesterday. It will be tougher for him coming down the final run when the real championship starts, because obviously he'll be nailed by a few good corner and wing backs. But outstanding display from Conor Lehan. But overall, I think Tom Kingston and his management team are putting out a signal there. We can play without Pat Hogan. We can play without our marquee players. We can replace them with players equally as good. Jesus, Jack O'Connor came in yesterday, lads, and it was like 2 shots out of a gun. He's 2 pints. He was absolutely on fire. So he has him humming, and we were just a disappointing second yesterday.
Yeah, and, you know, I thought you put up a great old display against Limerick. For most of it, Ken, and just probably ran out of juice with a lot of the younger lads being not used to playing at that level. But some old failings came back yesterday, didn't they? Like Dara Fitzgibbon's goal, like, Jesus, how far is he out? I'm sorry for putting Liam on the spot, Liam Sheedy. I said, like, to shades of Kyle Hayes' goal about it. No, it wasn't as maybe. Yeah, he didn't know quite as far.
And I saw what happened in Nolan Park. The hits that went in, the lack of space available to the Owen Cody's, to the TJ Reeds and company. Anyone that went down the middle was put back in their back. Fergal Horgan, you know, outstanding again, refereeing the game, totally in control of the game, totally respected by both teams. But the hits, lads, were unbelievable. You take into comparison yesterday, Mark, and fair dues to you were top class, but it was like a practice game. Let's face it, the second half was a practice game, and that's hugely disappointing for us all to see.
Yeah, I went out. I was kind of staying in the box because you'd be doing analysis, and I just said to him at halftime, lads, I'm going out to watch 20 minutes of this outside in the terrace. I had the terrace to myself because that terrace was closed. And I just couldn't believe the lack of intensity. But Cork, all they had to do was keep the scoreboard ticking over, to be fair to them. They had the work done at halftime. And must be, like, when he woke up, Mark, I was saying last Sunday morning week, Kieran, he must have been nearly preparing what he'd say to the press maybe. And, you know, we did it some good. And best of luck to the next person, and we'll hand on the baton. And he's waking up today in a different boat, isn't he?
Well, totally. It's incredible how the whole thing has turned around. And I think he would have said, like, you know, that our game can't be defined in one, or our season can't be defined in one game. I think they were after being beaten by Clare. And, you know, and I think the big thing was that he'd lost control of being able to qualify for the latter stages of the championship. So the control had gone out of his hands. And I suppose it was at that stage the realization is, oh Jesus, there's an end coming here, and it's not going to look pretty. And in fairness to them, they have turned it around. And I would say in no small juncture that I think the placement of Kieran Joyce at centre back has been a huge changing point, I would say. Of all the things that have happened, I think just that one move has significantly steadied the ship, and it's a great tribute to a young fella, you know, who is still qualified for the under-20 team this year, that at 19 years of age that he's able to man a position, and he looks so comfortable. And I keep making this point, he looks like he has plenty time on the ball, whatever opposition he's coming up against now. And I don't want to put a mark on his back for later on in the season.
No, but Mark, just to say, I still think he's making green enough mistakes, but what I'm seeing is that a young fella that's grown, is learning, and is, as you said, getting more and more comfortable. And I think that was a huge selection. Just to double down on what you said, put him in there, trust him, put Coleman back to his proper position, and let him. He'll be, what kind of a centre back will he be in 2 years' time? Like,
I know it's a bit like having a good 2-year-old in Aidan O'Brien's and you're looking for the derby. You just, I mean, I would have been a small bit afraid of, because of his age, of putting him in there so early that you knew you had a good one. And the question is whether you put him in or not. But he has steadied the ship dramatically, I would say. And then obviously the two elder lads, I suppose Conor Lehan and Shamie Hannity, have really started to hit form. Hannity, in particular, last Sunday against Waterford, And just to, I suppose, I would have always been very hard on Conor over the last number of years that he has never fulfilled his potential. But I would be the first man to admit I thought yesterday's display was probably his greatest display ever in a Cork jersey, particularly with the lead that Tipp had got and the penalty not being converted. And okay, we got a goal, but Conor Lehane in the next 15 or 20 minutes was the man that spread eagle the field, I suppose. He got 6 points from playing the first half, but he was just electric. He was everywhere. His touch was brilliant. He went into the air, silhouetted a couple of times with one hand. Now, he won't get that against a Kilkenny or a Limerick and stuff like that. But yesterday, I thought Conor Lehane was just immense, and I would say great credit to him. And, you know, the other point I would make is that the selectors made a big decision, Anthony as well, to start Patrick Hogan. And I thought Patrick tried really hard yesterday. And obviously they're listening to us on the podcast as well, because I would have called him out a couple of weeks ago to jogging out the freeze. He was sprinting out the freeze to take him yesterday. And I thought that set a good tone as well for him as well. Because, you know, when you're walking out to a free, there's too much time to be thinking and dwelling over your free. Get out there, get over the ball, compose yourself and rattle it over the bar like any good player does. So I think, you know, I think after yesterday, you know, to score the score that we got, we have a nice blend now, I would say, and the leaders keep coming to the fore. I thought Niall O'Leary was very comfortable yesterday. Sean O'Donoghue, again, we mentioned off screen beforehand, who would like to be a selector picking the two cornerbacks in the All-Star this year. Barry Nash, Ronan Hayes, Sean O'Donoghue, Sean Finn, trying to pick two from the four of them lads at the moment. So I just think in general, there's a feel-good factor, obviously. The next game mightn't be as difficult as we'd be expecting, but I think Cork could possibly...
Will you go to Corrigan Park, Mark, if it's Antrim?
Charlie
set up the car, Dad? And...
Well, Charlie was left at home yesterday, Dalo. He had a bit of soccer training yesterday in Waterford, and I brought the middleman yesterday, Matthew. And I never thought in my life I would be able to throw the young fella 3 feet into the air right against Tipperary when we got 3 goals. And I must say, he knocked some satisfaction out of it. He was fist pumping, he had the jersey on, and he was kissing the flag and all this kind of stuff. You can't buy that kind of stuff, lads. You know, the young lad. So he just said to me going away, I said, we'll go now with 3 or 4 minutes to go to avoid the traffic. There is no way, he said, we're leaving before the final whistle. And then when I saw 5 minutes going up for extra time, I just said, Jesus, there'll be some persecution for the Tipp supporters to get another 5 minutes of this. So he first said the young fella, he convinced me to stay till the final whistle. We saw the lads doing a bit of a fist pump, and then we shot out the door, and it was a great day for everybody involved.
Would you think you'd bring him down to the field there and get a couple of pictures with Hoggy and Lehane and Harnedy, etc.? Like, you know, all the parents that were you're out the door, you'd go back to scanning mares and stuff like.
No, he forgot the marker. He brought 2 jerseys with him, right? And he all for about an hour in the morning, he said, Dad, we need to be able to get the signatures of all the players now today. So I said, Jesus. I said, there'll be half of them will be gone to the dressing room before we get a chance. I said, we'll get 3 or 4, we'll shoot out onto the field. So we were looking at it, he bought a little bag with him. The jersey was in there, the flag was in there, bottle of Coke and a sandwich, and you know yourself. I said, Matthew, where's the marker? And the big long face came on. The tears started to roll. The thought of it, but I said, look, we're going to have another day out, so we'll get him the next day. So if we have to go to Antrim, Dalo, the small man is in the car. We have signatures to get. We'll travel to Antrim. Or if we have to go down to Kerry, they'll probably bring us to Tralee. We'll definitely travel.
Yeah, you wouldn't go for the football, but you'll go if this Killarney or Tralee. You'll go. They'll probably bring you up to Abbeydorney or somewhere. If I was them, anyway, that's exactly.
It'd be a bit like going to Rathdowney. But we're there. Is it amazing?
TJ, we'll come back to the 20 final. Saw most of us trying to watch it as we were having meetings and stuff. It isn't easy when you're on duty, but your overall Tipp just didn't bring enough.
Yeah, absolutely didn't. Like, again, I don't know. This hurling game is starting to make a fool out of me in terms of I'm just beginning to question what am I looking at. I was impressed enough with Tipp against Limerick. I thought they came very organised, very structured, knew exactly what they were doing. I thought their handoffs were good, and they were following Gerald Hegarty and Tom Morris. I thought they did everything right as a team. Their game plan was simplistic. And it was like as if yesterday they went back to times they didn't know whether they were zonal, they didn't know whether they were picking somebody up. Like I could pick 4 or 5 occasions, and like after the opening 10 minutes spell, right? And even Cork didn't even execute him brilliantly. There was one puck out, Patrick Collins hit over into the arena stand where Darragh Fitzgibbon, I think the ball went out over the line, right? I think Darragh Fitzgibbon was in about 40 yards of space and there was no one absolutely near him at all, right? So there was oodles of that. Like Dylan Quirk even went for a ball and he just batted it straight down to Hoggy, who put it over the bar, and there was loads of them. And even the first goal that Alan Connolly scored, right? There's 3 Tipperary defenders on the scene there, right? So they have him exactly where you want him. And then the 3 of them are at one side and they give him the opening. Now, Alan Connolly does very well and he's proven to be a goal scorer machine. And you have to credit him with that, right? Like he just kind of barged in, got away with it, spun, and great goal. But from a defensive point of view, when you look at that in the tape afterwards, you'll be very disappointed from a Tipperary defence point of view. And then Darragh Fitzgibbon sailed through, picked up a breaking ball in the middle of the field. It just kept opening. And then I think it was Ronan Maher that's jumped across and maybe ever so slightly blindsided, but the keeper's got to block that as well. Like that's what you've got to do at this level. So I would say all around, like after the opening, let's say 7 or 8 minutes for Tipperary did, like it was completely lacking intensity. They were in between modes, and I'm just wondering here, and maybe a little bit similar with Waterford, our teams really organised, getting really structured, and knowing exactly what they're doing against Limerick, right? And then for let's say perceived lesser opposition. I'm going to use that word, Marco, in case you take me up wrong here, right? Perceived lesser opposition. Do they kind of revert to type a bit and maybe not have the same impetus into that game as they had in the Limerick game? I don't know what you think, Ken, but that's what it felt like for me looking on from Tipperary point of view. They were kind of in between zones again.
Yeah, it's sad when our 2 top players over the last number of matches actually have been Cathal Barrett and Craig Morgan, our 2 cornerbacks. And Ronan Maher obviously has come back to fill a hole at fullback, which means basically it seemed yesterday our half-back line weren't there at all. But you mentioned about setting up for games and things like that. I mean, it was knockout yesterday. We had to put our bodies on the line. We had to show passion in the jersey. We had to show drive and determination. And we didn't do that. We're not winning primary ball. Nobody puts their hand for the ball in Tipperary. Nobody catches the ball. Shane O'Donnell, what is he? Dalo, 5'8", 5'9". He's flying onto balls, catching them even among rucks, and all the outstanding fetching and feeling that was done in Kilkenny and last week in Ennis with Clare and Limerick. We're just lacking in the department of winning the hard ball, winning the high ball. So it's like a ball alley, basically. The ball has been hit up and it's coming back twice as fast. And the pressure our backline, particularly our full backline are under, is incessant, and I just feel like there's a lot of surgery to be done. I don't know where we start. Hurling's going to be a funny game. I just happened to pick up an article that you guys were involved in your Munster predictions, and Dalo, you said Tipperary would finish last, in the situation that we wouldn't do well. That has unfortunately come to pass. We're minus 31 in the score difference. Minus 31. If you're minus 12 or 15, you'd say, Jesus, we were close. And looking at the Waterford situation now, that was the real game to win because Tipp played so well in Waterford for 63, 64 minutes. A couple of refereeing decisions definitely went against us. I think it's the one game we could have won, the Tommy situation. And I think it looks now that was the game that could have helped us. But the Clare show, the horror show yesterday. I mean, from our perspective, the concession of huge scores. There's a lot of mind-boggling stuff to think about now.
Yeah, and I think one thing is, no one knows if managers are going to stay on. No one knows if Liam Cahill is going to decide to stay on in Waterford. No one knows if Cullum. I never ever. I wound up 6 years in Dublin, and I never ever said there's a 2-year term or a 3-year term, or I wouldn't let the county board say it, because I just felt you have to take every year and its merits. Were you going to make it better or worse? Were the panel with you, not with you? But I would say if Cullum is staying, like, it needs nearly a sit down the autumn, you know, absolute Brian O'Mara and Owen Connolly. No America, lads. No plans now. You're here. I feel he's a huge loss to the half back line. You know, he really cleared the Fitzgibbon nearly, you know. And
Kieran Connolly, it's funny you mentioned Owen Connolly. Now you only have to mention him by accident.
Yeah, the two Connollys, obviously.
We don't know where Owen has gone. Kieran Connolly as well. Yeah, Niall O'Mara, obviously on his travels, will be back. Willie Connors, who broke his leg, unfortunately. These are the lesser known players that have contributed hugely to this team. And my heart goes out to the management team. My heart goes out to the players because they have put in savage work, and I'm sure they're at a low ebb today. And there is it's a McDonagh Cup final between Kerry and Antrim, and there is the possibility that Tipperary may have to stay training to play the McDonagh Cup. If Kerry win it, the McDonagh Cup winners, then that probably will be in Tralee again. So from that perspective, we're in a situation now whether we don't know whether we should go back training or not, or will we be playing Kerry? If Kerry win the McDonagh Cup, we seem to be playing them to stay in Munster hurling.
Yeah, the other thing too, Dalo, there is, I suppose, that whole from a county's perspective now, is that whole buy-in to everything that's going on. Like Cork, like they probably had maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5-1 in terms of fans yesterday. So Ken, there's a whole maybe kind of belief thing in the whole Tipperary, whether you call that all of hurling or whatever, or the whole column situation with the senior team, is the fans didn't seem to believe either yesterday, because it was nearly red all the way around the stadium, from what I could see. And in fairness to the rebels, as Mark tells me, even though they get beaten there and they lost the first 2 rounds, they still believe, and just they were out in force yesterday all over the place. And definitely things are heading in a situation in Cork where the team is definitely structure-wise definitely improving. I agree with Joyce at 6. I think he's definitely made a difference in allowing Coleman to play at 7. Lehan is a new lease of life. The game was played in their terms. Their stick work was really, really good. Their shooting was really, really good. Just maybe a little question mark for me about the whole defensive full-back line is that maybe against better opposition, you might have conceded more goals. Tipp looked dangerous a lot of the time the ball went in there. So just a little word of warning, Mark. Not that you need it or anything like that, and not that you'll be listening to me today, I'm sure, because as I said, when you're going well, like most Cork people, you listen to no one.
Well, I will say it. I will say this. I think before the year is out, I think John Melrick could have a part to play in this defence. You know, depending on who you're playing against. I still have concerns over Damien. You know, he's when I see him with a bit too much time with the ball in his hand, I could see Kieran Kingston on the sideline a couple of times. Will you go long, please? Go long, Damien. So that, look, I think, you know, like if we came up against a Wexford and a Lee Chin, geez, he's a powerful man. I want to make that point about physique and strength and conditioning. Have you ever seen a hurler so well toned in all your life? Christ, he is really like one of the running backs of the New Zealand team or an Irish team maybe, or a Brian. He's a powerful man, like, and a brilliant stickman as well, like.
Yeah, what you're likely to be facing, Marco, I suppose, if you can negotiate the trip to Tralee or Corrigan Park, you're likely to be meeting the losers of the Leinster final. So you might have Conor Whelan or Owen Cody to worry about in there. So TJ Reid, etc. But look, I think the way Cork are going with another bit of improvement, I give, you know, Callan, I thought has had 2 good old defensive shifts, and I think that old cornerback role maybe suits. Is probably the best.
It's just that some of his clearances, Anthony, against Waterford, ended up 40 yards, ended up in Waterford hands twice over the bar, and a little bit. He does lose the ball a bit too often for me. But look, he's certainly a man that has taken an awful lot of criticism, and it's a fair trial of him that he keeps coming back. He's a great guy now, a really, really good guy. But sometimes, Damien, you might be better off to lump it down the field. I mean, we have Connolly now. If Tim O'Mahony happens to make the starting 15, so we have, I suppose, Tim is certainly a person who is an option, a bit like Duggan now is an outball. Like, I wouldn't be messing around with it too often in our backline. That would be my view.
I just have to point out, I said it on the air, I know you were at the match, you wouldn't have seen it, but like, it can be nearly scary moments. Tim O'Mahony's goal, like that was a throwback to Hennessy and right back to Shawnee Leary, like the first time ball across the square. And
John Fitzgibbon touching the ground from Dalo Fitzgibbon and the first time in from Tim O'Mahony. Yeah.
I said Cork, even the older Cork people in the stand who didn't like the short game and this kind of said they were loving that goal, like
without a question of doubt, no doubt. But like all the goals yesterday had a bit of everything in them. I suppose you'd have to say Connolly's goal for me is a team goal, particularly coming after the penalty non-conversion. Like that was a real team goal, and the fact that Connolly spun away, shortened the hurley, and off his left-hand side, just hit the inside of the post to go in. God, lads, he's a really good talent. And of course, just in case people don't know, his uncles are Tom and Jim Cashman, and his grandfather is Jimmy Brohan, the former cornerback that played for years for Cork. So, like the Mayor's Dalo, he's well bred.
he's bred in the purple. So that's Munster, lads. There's a great character in Kilrush. Not dead that long now. Cocky Casey. He was a great character, and he used to predict who'd win early in the year always. And he'd said, "This year, boys, back the 3Ks." Who are they, Cocky? The boys would say, he said, Kerry, Kilkenny, and Cork. That was Cocky. He was a famous character inside the town. But the three are in that order: Clare, Limerick, and Cork. So they're not gone away. They haven't gone away. So we look forward to 2 weeks' time, Munster final, the Mick Mackey Cup up for grabs. What an honour it would be for either Tony Kelly or Declan Hannon to get their hands on it. Odds on Declan Hannon will be lifting it, but we'll go down anyway. And we get the flags out there now. No sign outside Murty Bounds here now.
It'll be like Dalo. You try to hoodwink us now at the start of the season, try to play yourselves down. Your camouflage is gone now, Dalo. Okay, you're in full view now, and he sent your second team to beat Waterford just comprehensively. So there'll be nobody taking you lightly from here on in, Dalo.
Yeah, Waterford had lost the plot there. Four lads made their debut as well. It was just nice to be able to do that as well in a big crowd and good, all good, sure. But look, we know what's coming down the tracks, and we'll do our best. And we'll get the sign and the flags up here now. For the Munster final, wishing Brian and the lads from Murty's very important. Limerick lads don't do that anymore now, and they wait till the All-Ireland final. Like so, yeah, all good, all good.
No, Dalo, we will never get bored with Munster final day or All-Ireland final day. And in fairness to the fine Limerick crowd in Thurles yesterday for the under-20 match, so I'm assuming you're going to come back to that in a while. We go to Leinster first and then come back. Yeah,
we go across to our Leinster brethren and Galway, of course, in there. Ken, you got the game of the interesting. Liam Sheedy said he went down and he sat behind the goal. He got all the action there at that goal, the own Murphy save, but he travelled. I would have thought beforehand. I couldn't see Wexford overturning them. I thought things had maybe gone a bit like Waterford there with the draw with Westmeath. We knew that good players. I think, like Mark spoke about Lee Chin. I suppose Chin is like Kelly in lots of ways for Wexford, but they had so many guys that stood up. I especially want to mention Liam Ryan, an outstanding point to put him a point ahead. He put his body on the line for the first block for the trilogy of saves to stop Kilkenny getting a goal. And he stood on, and we were critical of him here the day of the Dublin game, that he didn't take on the shot that day to level it. He passed it, stood up. Matt O'Hanlon, D. O'Keefe, Damien Reck, so many, Conor McDonald. Kilkenny didn't have the answers for them, and after getting off to a good start, fantastic goal from one Cody, and it looked like here we go. But Wexford stood like their lives are on the line, and they have gotten through now in third place. And a great credit to Darry Egan, Niall Corcoran, etc. There, and great game, came real intensity, real championship, and Wexford boys. They often speak about their pride and the blood in their veins. By Jesus, I tell you, they showed all that Saturday evening.
Yeah, and we have a little get together every Sunday evening, the high table we call it, and we have Limerick men and Kerry men and Cork men and Offaly men, of course, Galway, and ourselves as well in Burr. So we do have an old chat about that, and we do give our fancies, and I give to start of the year Wexford my fancy to win Leinster, which obviously is not going to happen, but I was sticking by Wexford all along, and I felt Keane, who and myself just said, we're now from Kilkenny. We flew off there Saturday evening. We had not a bother in the world. I had him doing a bit of work for me, cutting a few hedges and that. So that was his reward for going down to Kilkenny. It's a great place to go to, lads, Nolan Park. Fantastic atmosphere. Stewards seem to all know their hurling. They know more about hurling than the hurlers themselves. They'll always have the chat with them. They'll have the crack. It was a fantastic evening in Nolan Park. I just felt in my bones that this was going to be a right hell of a game. It's brilliant, lads, to be a neutral going to a game, where you don't really mind who wins. You want to appreciate what goes on. But my expectations were more than fulfilled. I was actually, and Leinster have a little bit of a thing about Munster hurling. They're saying you're always pontificating there about Munster hurling, and we do seem to get bigger crowds. But 15,000 flew into Nolan Park Saturday evening. Just from the very word go, lads, there was a feeling that this was going to be one hell of a game, and it turned out to be that. Kilkenny looked to be totally in the ascendancy, as you mentioned, Dalo, at the start, but Wexford just clawed their way back into the game slowly, and Dio in the middle of the field, Damien Reck at the back, Lee Chin came into the game. They were playing him out in the middle of the field because they were so bereft of ball at that stage for a 10-minute, 15 period in the first half. But then they started to shoot a few great long points, particularly from a few of their backs. But the second half, we thought the first half was good. The second half, it was absolutely top-notch stuff from both teams. Kilkenny threw the kitchen sink at him. Obviously, as you know, John Donnelly didn't start. Pádraig Walsh, for some strange reason, didn't start, because I'd bring Pádraig with me any day of the week to play championship hurling. Now, maybe that was tactical, but if Dublin had won, Kilkenny were out of the championship, lads. So Kilkenny couldn't afford to take any chances last Saturday evening. But what you mentioned, Dalo, the passion, the pride, but more or less the leadership from the Liam Ryans and the Damien Ricks, the absolute leadership from them was absolutely phenomenal. But key component of this victory, lads, was the changes they made. Charlie McGuckian coming in, son of Shane McGuckian, the former Offaly hurler. He won the I suppose the highlight of the game was the scraps. We talk about Paul Galvin when he was playing Kerry with football. Every scrap, Wexford came out with the ball. Every ball that was on the ground, Wexford came out with the ball. And the funny thing then from the Kilkenny perspective, lads, was that Kilkenny went back to route one. They started swinging ball high down on top of Walter and TJ. And of course, Matthew Hannon's like a Siamese. They're like Siamese twins at this stage, Matthew and TJ, because TJ, everywhere Matthew goes, TJ stuck to him. So both of them were together for all that. So Matthew seems to have a little number on TJ. But from everybody's point of view, it went to the wire. And against the breeze as well. Savage points from Liam Ryan, Damien Reck. And of course, the pint from Mickey Dwyer. We speak about the Peter Duggan pint. Mikey Dwyer's pint, and he's a former student of Maynooth College, by the way, and an excellent rugby player. It looked like Leinster rugby was going to be his choice at one stage. What a score! Jinked in, jinked out, and to finish with aplomb. What a score! And of course, the Owen Murphy save in the first half to keep Kilkenny in it just before half time. There were so many highlights in the game, lads. Our mouths were just open, and we just actually walked on the pitch after the game. Because what an atmosphere, what a feel-good factor just to be down there.
Ken, can I just ask you, I was watching the game on telly, right? And to be honest about it, I was listening to +1 nonsense on a number of occasions. I am not having a clue what they were on. This is a new phrase in hurling, +1. Am I right in saying that? Did Wexford set up with a sweeper, right? Was it a full-blown sweeper system? I know you could clearly see that Richie Reid was free, but obviously they didn't have a sweeper. They just played with their 6 backs and kept Richie Reid as their natural centre back. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Kilkenny actually started with 2. No, Kilkenny actually started with 2 inside, TJ. And by the way, Billy Ron didn't start either, and he was one of the top players in the league. But Owen Cody obviously was inside, and TJ was floating out. TJ actually started as centre forward, which meant that Wexford had to have a sweeper. Now, I was expecting Kevin Foley when he was named at number 11 to be sweeper, TJ. But Kevin Foley actually played as an orthodox midfielder. So it meant that Damien Reck was doing a lot of sweeping and Dio, of course, was coming back, flying around the pitch. But the work rate of the Wexford team right around the pitch was unbelievable. And you mentioned +1, TJ. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're hearing about the short ball, we're hearing about the systems, we're hearing about zonal marking. But at the end of the day, win the ball, hit the ball, and get it to where you want it into space. That's what hurling's about. And
Jesus, Ken, you can't be saying those kind of things to the modern player, Ken. You must have the buzzwords: zonal, stick to the plan, +1s. Jesus, you would be done out of a job if you didn't have all those buzzwords now, like, you know.
Through the lines.
Hit the right ball to the right place. Because if you have the desire up front, like Lee Chin had, or Dio and Cody's, or TJ Reid for that matter, or Big Walter, if you have the desire to win the ball, you'll win it. And obviously, you want the ball in the right trajectory. You want it there. But, you know, in Nolan Park, Wexford were able to mix. They have a savage mix now with Darragh Egan. You know, they have a savage mix in that they can mix it up. And he's obviously given the flair to go forward. Because when it came down to brass tacks last Saturday evening, Wexford had to win. And they put the ball over the bar from the 56 yard. Cathal Dunbar scored. Mikey Dwyer scored as well. Their substitutes, 3 substitutes, scored, and savage pints they were. They weren't just tap over pints. They were pints that were manufactured pretty well. And I think this Wexford team, lads, I rate this Wexford team. People dismiss Wexford. I just have an inkling will have a big say in this championship, coming in 3rd place in Leinster.
Yeah.
Do you know? Sorry, Dalo. Do you know what they have shown, lads? They have showed remarkable resilience, because they had a great start to the league, right? And then in the last game or two, things didn't go well for them. They went on to the championship then, and we all felt the one game that they had to win was the Dublin game, because everybody felt it would come down to Dublin or Wexford to get through. They lost that game by a point, and then to get a further blow, they slipped up against Westmeath. So now they have taken 3 body blows in the last 6 or 7 weeks. They have showed remarkable resilience to come back, believe in the management, believe in themselves, go into Nolan Park against the Kilkenny team that are coming off of a massive victory over Dublin last weekend, and come away with the spoils. I'd have to agree with you, Ken. Whether or not, Ken, when it comes down to get to the All-Ireland semi-final stage, against, we'll say, whoever's there, whether they will step up to that, and Croke Park, a bigger field. You know, I'm not fully convinced yet, Ken, but I must say hats off to them to be where they are right now with the hammer blows they've taken. I think over the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've seen some of the teams that have gone out of the championship that once they were put on the back foot, they, I suppose, limped out of the championship. I think Wexford has showed tremendous resilience to get to the latter stages so far.
Yeah, Mark, they'd likely go across if they can negotiate the preliminary quarter-final in either Corrigan Park or Abbeydorney. They'd likely go across to meet the losers of the Munster final now, with Limerick 1-5 on, and the handicap being 7 points. That's likely to be clear. Now, the one thing is Clare have a great record against Wexford the last few years. And even the last 10, 15 years, Clare and Wexford, every time they meet in a big game, any kind of an important game, Clare seem to have their number. So, but we're only speculating.
One of the quarterfinals will be in the hallowed turf of Páirc Uí Chaoimh. We believe one of the quarterfinals will be Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And if it is Clare, as you have predicted, Dalo, that you have no hope in that Munster final. No. If it's Clare and Wexford, that will be in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And Wexford don't like going to Cork traditionally.
And neither do Clare.
We love
No. I know a lot of your supporters, Mr. Foodie down there, my old good buddy there from Oina Killamona. He says there's no way we go to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It's a disaster to get in and get out. So now, the last time he played there was a very, very poor showing. Now, Dalo, I think you're putting the cat before the horse now, because I can tell you, you know, dog outsiders like you're trying to make you out to be this morning. What? 1-5 Limerick? There's something wrong there. That's going to be a very close game.
There's no bookies on bikes, Marco. We
because
don't
it
get
might-
it too far wrong, you know. So
Dalo, we'll come back to the Munster final.
can I just
A
ask
couple
you
of
one
things
thing, TJ? One thing. Can I just ask you before we move on? Would Mikey O'Dwyer's point, wonderful score. Would you see it scored in Nolan Park in a huge championship game against Kilkenny 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? You wouldn't. The first jink, you'd be levelled. I think they have a bit to worry about, and obviously they've lost two matches yet. They're in the Leinster final, but
They're in the Leinster final,
they can't seem to get midfield traction, can they? Alan Murphy, Nedry Mullen the weekend, they played second fiddle really to Liam Og and Kevin Foley. You'd have to say overall.
Yeah, midfield has been like a Lanigan's ball for them, for Kilkenny all season. They've had so many different people in and out of there. I just don't know how they're going to settle that. Like the Partick Walsh thing is huge, Ken. I don't know what has happened there. Like, was he injured? Maybe he's carrying a knock. I don't know.
He said he is carrying a knock, TJ.
Okay.
Brian Cody said he's carrying a slight knock.
It's hard to believe that he wouldn't be in the half-hour line, but I saw in Galway and Salt Hill there was like a shortish game with Kilkenny, and then there was a frustration among their sideline about that we need to hit the ball long, right? Like they played absolutely into Wexford's hands in that second half, right? It was absolutely straight down the barrel, down on top of big men every single time, and which wasn't working. Like Richie Reid had a load of possessions. They needed to work the ball short. Bottom line here is Kilkenny scored 118. Not good enough to win a championship game in the way the modern game is played. And just after the start they made where they had 1-5 on the board, probably after 8 or 10 minutes, Ken, right? And looking like, everything was normal for Kilkenny. After that, you'd have to say they were really, really poor. Where both teams are at, I'd have a question mark about both of them. I just can't see, I can't see Wexford getting the scores. Unfortunately for Wexford, if they had beaten Westmeath, they would have been in the Leinster final. Ken, that's how close, with the win in Kilkenny. And if Kilkenny had beaten them, they'd be out. That's how fragile the championship is. And I suppose the piece of the equation for teams like Dublin, let's say Tipperary today, or Waterford now is, how far are you away? Is the gap huge? Or how far is it if you change one or two players? And that's always the big conundrum for teams. But for me, I think both Kilkenny and Wexford have work to do. I thought Kilkenny were improving. I thought they were going to be a threat in the championship, but they have to get something right amongst, let's say, themselves in terms of their game plan and their structure. They're in between. It's causing confusion among them. And I just thought they kept lumping ball long. It was very old school stuff. It wasn't working. And I just didn't see that creativity in them to go and win the game. Albeit, no, they could have had a goal. Brilliant defending by the Wexford boys. And if they'd got that, they might have still stuck a result. So, question mark about both.
Obviously, we have to mention Galway, lads. Galway are coming in lovely. Jesus, they're coming in so quietly into this Leinster final with that situation.
Yeah, like Clare and Limerick, unbeaten. They draw in Wexford, all right. So maybe there is some traction there for Wexford. TJ, they were able to get the draw with them. But sitting pretty on 9 points, and then the 4 teams on 6 points. Obviously, the Dubs scoring difference ultimately. And I suppose beating the 2 lesser teams, you have to kind of hammer them. I suppose that's the reality of it now, because not for the first time Leinster has come down to scoring difference. So Salt Hill.
Yeah.
It took care of business.
Dalo, before, can you give us a view of Fergal Horgan's contribution to the game on Saturday night?
My heart has been uplifted in this weekend by refereeing. First of all, Fergal Horgan, absolutely outstanding. Kilkenny and Wexford people around me, and we're all passionate, as you well know, about decisions and what happens. Unanimous in their view that, thank God we have this referee, man in the middle. No fuss, no interference. Like any human, mistakes will be made, but absolutely outstanding presence there as well. And it made for such a huge game, because if you won your free, you earned it, right? If you acted the canat, right, you were told. The finger was pointed or you were ticked, and there was no fuss. It went on like that. But I must say, Sean Stack and Thomas Walsh yesterday, 2 outstanding referees yesterday. It was a pleasure to see that young fellas coming through like that as well in the refereeing stakes. So from that perspective, Fergal Horgan, it makes for the game. And you've managed game teams yourselves, lads, when you go into game situation, you're saying, who's the ref? And people, one time people say, the ref doesn't matter. By God, lads, as you well know, the ref does matter.
Yep, big time. It's very impressed in Thurles as well, I have to say. Stack is really developing into top class, I think, so good weekend for refs all round. Galway, TJ, job done. Henry'd be happy, I'd say. They've negotiated their way nicely through it. Conor Whelan's return to form. I mean, we've lauded on O'Donnell on this show, and he just couldn't cope with Wheelo yesterday, could he? Just impossible to mark, and we're just flagging it there for Cork later on if they do come across him. Or, he is indeed, and that full forward line now with Mannion and Concannon and himself is looks fierce, threatening. But Dublin obviously not going well. 1 goal in the 5 matches, no threat of a goal. Relying on Donald Burke. I think Green McBride got 2 points. A few lads got 1 point. Not good enough at all. Spread of scores. I suppose Matty will have to sit down with the board now and decide whether he's staying or going. But they looks like, it looks like it needs a change of direction, to be honest. And Matty has won 2 All-Ireland clubs with Coola. Not anyone in Dublin will ever be able to say it.
Yeah, no doubt Galway will be very happy, I suppose, to start with them. Job done, top of the table, unbeaten through the championship, so perfect for Henry. Very settled look about the team, very structured, nice forwards. Even Keenan Fahy now chipping in with a couple of scores, which is a big plus for them as well. I think we saw Joe Cooney up to the weekend was top scorer from play at wing forward. Tom Monaghan going very nicely. Conor Cooney scoring the frees. So an awful lot of positives for Henry there, and in the squad getting stronger as well with a couple of lads coming back. So I would say there will be in just a nice position. Maybe the goals, they'll have to come at some stage for them, and I'm sure that will be on his mind. Henry being one of the better goal scorers of all time anyway. So I think that's a piece that maybe they can improve on. Very, very happy and lovely position for them to be in. We are going to get the Henry versus Cody part 2, which will be interesting. Galway entitled to be favourites now. It's in Croke Park now. What difference does that make? I just like the look of Galway right now in terms of their overall team structure, where they're at. Who knows what kind of a team the Kilkenny training will throw up over the next couple of weeks. I think they've got questions to answer about their style of play as well. There's a little bit of a change trying to come in there, and I'm not sure if it's fully welcomed across the board. So I don't know. To go to Dublin, you'd have to say, given that they had 6 points early, the last 2 games have been disappointing. I know it's only on score difference in qualify, but from Matty himself, it looked like as if they were going to get that qualification. They're definitely lacking some sort of forwards. Their league form was okay at times, but against Kilkenny seemed to have the mindset over them at the moment that they'll beat them. So yeah, crossroads for Dublin. Again, their score wouldn't be good enough to win a championship game. So yeah, work to do there.
Yeah, big time. And I think it's a great Leinster final to look forward to. Mark, Kilkenny love Croke Park obviously as much as anyone, but I think that Salt Hill necessarily wouldn't suit Galway. I think they love Croke Park with the type of forward they have.
Yeah, and we mentioned this the last weekend, and I said about timing, and the reference I was making was both Clare and Limerick in terms of the league form. Galway's league form wasn't brilliant either, and they're really the 3 teams that seem to be in the best form right now. Cork obviously have possibly turned the corner, but I'm saying, and you asked me last week as to who's probably in second position. I think I put Galway into the second position in the pecking order in the country at the moment. So I'd say Croke Park, Dalo, I think will probably suit Galway slightly better. I think the defeat, now the only thing I suppose is there's a defeat in Kilkenny, and they will be sore after Wexford. They're near neighbours and near rivals for a long, long time, having put them to the sword over the weekend. So, we've often seen Kilkenny to come back, and the minute you doubt Kilkenny, they bite you in the backside. I suppose one of the concerns for me for Galway coming away yesterday is that Dahi Burke limped out of the game yesterday, and also Padraig Mannion was taken off injured. So there'll be a quick turnaround to get those lads back from the injury list. But for me at the moment, there's a lot of David Burke. Sorry, David Burke. David Burke. That would be a concern because they won't have a whole pile of training done in the lead in, and some people were worried, is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? But I suppose it's not make or break winning or losing the Leinster final. But when you get there, you want to win it. You want to have your best players on the field and have a full panel of players to play from. it's unknown really fully and conclusive whether winning or losing the Munster or Leinster final is an advantage or a disadvantage, because we've often mentioned, TG, you've mentioned this earlier on in the year. Dale, I'm going to give you a plug here, that when Limerick win the Munster final, your concern for them, right, is the gap between the Munster final and the semi-final. So, TJ, you'll probably we'll get a bit more evidence of that in the course of this year. But I think Galway their graph is rising and rising and rising. I'd be thinking they would be looking forward to the Leinster final in a confident manner.
Dalo,
yeah,
question for you.
I think go on.
How much of a factor is, do you know the way the block was, let's say, the 6-7 weeks, right? Like, let's say either the lack of training, or potentially, as Ken maybe have pointed out, maybe too much training, like the management of that block for teams, both winning and losing. How much of that has been a factor, I wonder, when teams look back, whether it be Dublin or whether it be Waterford? Like, how much of a factor was that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be shocked, like, to hear that Waterford did a heavy kind of a week or even a heavy session before the Cork game. Maybe the previous Sunday was your last chance, because they had a break week, hadn't they?
They had a 2-week break, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Like, I couldn't see. I mean, it happened to us with Dublin. It was a knockout Leinster Championship, but we happened to draw with Wexford and draw with Kilkenny. So we played 5 weeks in a row. We did no training, TJ. We chatted through things. We did a bit of video analysis. We got the bodies right. We went swimming in the Irish Sea. We had a barbecue. We just tried to keep the buzz going. And when we had low times, tried to pick it up. Dan said we played constipated hurling with it. We talked about that. Were we constipated, lads? Why don't we let it go? And I can't believe that the teams would do a heavy block. Like, you had to do your heavy. And I think also, like, this leads back into the league, lads. We're Clare and Limerick and Galway and maybe Kilkenny. Were they doing really heavy stuff during the league, like, and saying, if you're Clare and Limerick, let it off. We'll probably be good enough to beat Offaly. So we'll be no worries about relegation here, and we'll concentrate on the round robin. And I think that's the teams that are going well. I think, pick out a league game that you want to have a right cut off. Obviously the Clare Limerick match was a fair old battle drawn in us. So yeah, because it's just, I'd find it hard to believe, Tej, that teams would do that now.
Yeah, because even if things went wrong, let's say in these 6-7 weeks, there's very little training time to go and try and do something structurally different. And that's where I think the teams that are in between are struggling. I think that Tipp were an example of that for me. I thought structurally got it right against Limerick. I thought the weekend they were all over the place. I think Kilkenny were trying to do something different, and then I think they went back to type and just lump ball along. So I think maybe the lack of training and maybe not allowing these teams to have a training block of 2 or 3 weeks might be causing them an effect. I'd say the National League, conversation for another day, I'd say the National League in its current format in 2023 will be interesting. I'd say there will be maybe less, what would you call it? Focus for sure. What?
Have to change it as well, though. Have to change it. Otherwise, it's going to be a complete joke shop of a competition. Like, that's the reality now. People look at it this year and they'll say, what's the point? We have to be ready for this absolute savagery of round robin. And yeah, look at, I think it's one of the most eagerly awaited Leinster finals of all time. With the Munster final, I'm looking forward to. But Jesus, I tell you, Croke Park the night before, I think I'll be taking a road trip up to that one. I mean, I'm on for the Munster final, but I hope
Hogie won't forget the request we gave him a couple of weeks ago. We went 6 or 8 tickets in the soft seat. Remember that?
Yeah.
You'll have to get on to Dalo.
It isn't down in Nolan Park. It's down in Croke Park. Hogie, if you're listening, we don't expect you to get us hardcore, lad. Like, we'll give enough context there, sure. That's obviously, lads, huge one then for Joe Fortune and his Westmeath team, and fair play to them. I know Laois did have a lot of injuries, but Jesus, of course, typical. I was watching the score on the old score app, and I was saying, Jesus, Laois again, like, and went ahead after half time. They're going to pull it off again, but in fairness, an 18-point victory. And what saw the highlights obviously last night, Niall Mitchell, great forward, 2 goals for himself, and set up another one brilliantly in Kilkenny again. And great season really for them, with getting the promotion and from Division 2 up to Division 1 hurling, drawn with Wexford, and pulling off a comprehensive win in yesterday, and
outstanding,
very, very positive.
Yeah, like we
Very,
talk
very
about
positive.
Laois, we see Laois and Offaly as the traditional hurling counties. We don't talk about Westmeath as much, but the Clonakills and the Loughlin Gales and Castletown Gagans of this world, and the town itself, Oliver Plunkett's, they have, Raharney's, they have contributed savagely to keeping hurling alive in Westmeath, and kudos to Joe Fortune and his management team, because to stay, and from the very word go when they played Kilkenny, to stay in the games for 50, 60 minutes against top-class opposition, to get the point off Wexford, and to win comprehensively last weekend, you have to take your hats off to them. It's great to see Westmeath hurling on a high.
It is, and I just watched them as well. I'd be pal enough with Joe, and see, he's Peter Kelly in with him as well there, which is great. It's great. Peter's always a great hurling guy, and I'd say he's loving that. But they kept a settled team all the way through, lads, and I think that stood to them. Fellas are growing, playing with each other. They weren't chopping and changing because they got a bit of a hiding in one game or a hiding in Thurles or whatever. They kept very much near enough to the 15, and I think that's why they've grown. And yeah, they can look forward. Hopefully they can hang on to Joe, because I said Joe could be in demand maybe elsewhere around the country. There'll be speculation about that. But yeah, look, great stuff from them. So that's Leinster, lads. We know what we're looking forward to there, and Wexford obviously fully merited third spot with the way that they hurled in the Lions Den in Nolan Park, and well done to them. The Joe McDonagh, lads, was slippery and twisty, and I could see it coming. I was nearly going to have a tenner double on the two results, because I thought Carlow had improved right through the competition, and they've nearly had it over Offaly since Offaly's decline, let's say. I know Offaly are coming again under Mick, and obviously the minor success as well is a huge fill-up for Offaly. Someone said it to me actually yesterday. I think that it mightn't do him any harm to be Joe McDonagh for another year, but I'd say they would have liked him to be getting to the final at least. But Kerry then went up to Antrim. We saw the Antrim team, and I suppose we said, there's a few top hitmen left off, and which is absolutely Darren Gleeson's right, as was Brian Lohan's, as was John Kiley's. They had done the hard work. They were in the final, and now they'll meet again. Could be more tricky than people think for Antrim now, with Kerry buoyed up and in great shape under Malumphey. That's the one thing, Malumphey. You will be fit if Steve Malumphey is over the team, I tell you. And some of those Kerry lads, and they won't thank me for saying that, they would be a little bit arsey maybe other years. And I saw them once or twice this year, and they're lean and mean looking. So obviously, the Kilmiley boys, after a long, tough year, fully back integrated, the two O'Connors, and the Boyles are flying it. So yeah, it wasn't what we expected, and disappointing, lads, for Offaly, I suppose. A sense of deflation in Tullamore, I'd imagine, on Saturday.
Yeah, and a huge week for Offaly hurling, like, to win that minor title. 16,000 people in Port What an occasion, like, on a Monday night. And so many people watched it on TG4 as well, because of the fact, what else would you be doing on Monday night? And an outstanding Offaly team who will have a major say yet in the championship, in my opinion. But just so disappointing from the Offaly point of view. Their display was flat again. There was so much at stake, lads. And yet, for some reason, their display was flat. And like, there's a huge amount of work has been put in Offaly and developing the hurling. I wouldn't agree that staying in Joe McDonagh for another year is the thing to do. I think you're trying to aim for to play top level. You want to play in Croke Park in the McDonagh Cup final. Of course you do. Any player worth his salt wants to do that. But by all accounts, I didn't see the game, lads. It was a comprehensive victory for Carlow. So it must have been a huge disappointment for Carlow to hear the result in Belfast. But Kerry came through that game, proud hurling county, and it was a close run fair 2 years ago, and I'm expecting no different, particularly when you talk about Croke Park. This Kerry team will last the time, the 70 minutes, with Malumphey over him, definitely,
Yeah, it's a great one to look forward to, lads, on before the Leinster final as well. So that'll be great days hurling there, and we really look forward to that. We wish both teams the best of luck. In some ways, not a talk yesterday, even if Kerry were to win it, should they not come back into the Munster Championship? I saw the boys talking about it last night as well, and Ursula. It would nearly make sense, wouldn't it? Then going into Leinster, it's going to be hard either way. and you'll ship the defeats in Leinster with a lot more logistical problems than you will in Munster, and you know, you'll have that old Tralee factor maybe in Munster. I would like to think that maybe we'd look at that again. Whether Dalo was strong, that he thought that to maybe give the Kerry County Board a kick up the rear end to promote hurling more. I would feel there's a lot of that going on. The Tralee Parnell's thing is huge. You see the winning the Féile there last week, beating Ballyduff in the final. That wouldn't happen. Like Mlumphy, I think, was a great appointment as well in that, you know, he'd bring fierce professionalism and the team he'd bring with him. So yeah, maybe it would be a good thing to review rather than that system of they'd have to go in. And Kenny might have to stay training if they win it, because they'll have the preliminary quarterfinals. Like, tricky one for Tipp, couldn't it? Like, you'd expect them to win, but it's just an awkward situation.
Yeah, and travelling probably to Kerry to play it as well, you know. So, and you know, we're in limbo at the moment. We don't know whether we're coming or going. So from that perspective, obviously they'll probably take a week or two off and then see where they're coming from. It'll probably do them good, Dalo, to go back to their clubs. Get it out of their system, do a bit of training with their own clubs and get out of their system, because, as you mentioned already, match fitness won't be a problem. It's just to get the mental attitude right. Yeah, big time. And lads, great day of sport. I suppose it's not drawing the crowds. There's no doubt about that, seeing the highlights last night. But hugely special days, I think, for the teams in the Christie Ring, the Nicky Rackard and the Lowry Maher. Congratulate Kildare. We expected they'd bounce straight away, and they did with great ease. Their position is in the Joe McDonagh for sure, and possibly will be contenders, I'd say, with the amount of underage talent that's coming through there. Was up in Clare Friday night, launching the John Reedy Memorial Tournament coming up there 2 weeks' time, and great buzz around the place, and they were very confident of getting the result and felt they couldn't wait to get back to Joe McDonagh. So kudos to everyone there. Jerry Keegan, have to give him a mention, 10 points in play in the national final. So power 10 from play, like you'd say, he's the free taker straight away when you see it. Well done, Tyrone. Damien Casey with 14 points, winning the Nicky Rackard and going up there to Christie Ring, and then Louth with Paul Matthews getting the 2-1. Big win over the old pals Longford, who did a bonding session and nearly got him all the way, but not quite. Did a bonding session down here. So look, well done to all those teams. Fantastic to go to Croke Park and win a national title. I think the football crowd are even trying to learn off it now. There's fierce talk. Even brought Colm O'Rourke into studio last night to talk about the Tailteann Cup. So they're learning. They're getting there. So well done on any fronts there. Is there anything you want to bring in, lads? But the 20 final then, obviously, TJ, disappointing finish. Jesus, he had great chances to level it. Ken, have you to go? Good man, Ken. Thanks a million, Ken, for short notice. We'll give you more notice the next day. Cheers, lads. Take care.
Okay.
Cheers, Ken.
Talk to you, Ken. Thanks a million. Thanks to Ken there for joining us, lads. Top man as always. A good game, teacher. I couldn't see it all, but then I got out for the last before we were going on air. I think RTE were dreading extra time because it would have been clashing with the coverage coming on and on TG Cahir. And it looked, for all ends up, like he'd 4 chances to get the leveling point near the end, didn't he? And Colin, unfortunately for him, pulled it left under a bit of pressure. I suppose he would have felt the other 2 lads had better chances, maybe. Yeah,
like I suppose, look, certainly disappointing from Limerick point of view. Maybe we'll feel there's one that got away. The game was very tight all the way through. I think the game was level on 12 or 14 occasions. Like, it was 10 points to 9 at half time, and 47 minutes it was 15 points all. The game finished 19 points to 18. So that'll tell its own story. I suppose for any traditional Kilkenny people that maybe haven't seen the game, maybe just tune out for a second now. Very organised game plan from Derek Ling, Michael Rice, Peter Barry and Peter Donovan, but Kilkenny played with an out-and-out sweeper in number 12, Peter McDonald. So they played with 5 forwards. It allowed maybe Limerick centre-back Ethan Hurley to be free. No +1s, no new phrases here, Marco. Kilkenny sweeper played with no sweeper, and it worked. It closed the space. Yeah, like Aidan O'Connor, Adam English, Shane O'Brien, like Patrick O'Donovan inside. That would have been Limerick's maybe danger players, score getters, and they just kind of just got a grip of the game there, put numbers around it. Limerick found it difficult. Kilkenny definitely won the aerial battle. You saw, I'm sure, even the bit you saw, Dalo, plenty pause going into the air, grabbing ball for Kilkenny. The couple of other takeaways would be Two of the forwards for Kilkenny were standout on the day. Billy Drennan, who we spoke about from Galway, Marco, and I know who you've heard a bit about for quite a while.
Yeah,
he was excellent. He was man of the match. But another fella that stood out for me is the centre forward, Timmy Clifford. He has something different. He has a burst of pace. He got 3 points from play. He's definitely one for the future of Dixborough. But yeah, round the field, Kilkenny were just seemed to be doing a lot of the stuff right, and they created 2 very good goal chances as well in the second half. And I have to say, we'll talk about the Hawkeye incident in a second. But Clarkie's young fella, Connor, he made 2 brilliant saves, which kept Limerick in it at vital time in the second half. But we just seemed to be, we couldn't get ahead of the Kilkenny in that second half. We kind of struggled around that middle and third to get primary possession. We didn't work the ball maybe as good as I'd like to have seen maybe through the lines at times. And I think it's one of those games that I'd say from a Limerick point of view, when they look back on it, it's one of those games, Dalo, where you'd say, you know what, we'd like to have another cut off of that and see if we can do something different. So you know yourself, All-Ireland finals, you get an opportunity. We didn't take it, but full credit to Kilkenny on the day. They came with a plan, you know, as I said, and they have another, there's management teams jumping up all around the place now from a Kilkenny perspective. Emerging, yeah. But credit to the boys. They came with a plan and they executed to perfection. To talk very briefly about, and not get hung up about it, but the ball from the left half back from Kilkenny, Paddy Langton, in the first half, that the point was given. Like, for me at the time, I didn't think the ball had gone over the bar. It looked like Connor's hurley got to it, and then his hurley hit the bar. It didn't go over. And then the question mark about as to whether it actually did or not, you're kind of saying, was Hawkeye in use or not? I'm not 100% sure if it was in use for the game or not. Some people
why not go to Hawkeye? Like,
why not go to Hawkeye? It was in use, and I don't know. And then there's another question that has been brought up, and Larry was trying to give the science behind it is, like, we know that Hawkeye isn't in place for goals or the goal line if the ball is over, but is Hawkeye in place if the ball goes just over the bar? We know it's definitely in place for the uprights. And Larry sent me on to confirm the Hawkeye system installed at Croke Park can determine if the ball has passed the crossbar. So I think we've seen it before, and even Ken's young fella was involved in an incident. So that's a question mark, but it didn't look like a point. But look, you don't want to sound like sour grapes either, but when there's 1 point in it at the end of the game, and this looks like a point that was given and it wasn't a point, like the GA are leaving themselves open for criticism. Like in the senior game, I'm sure you guys remember as well, Cork were 10 points up, right? Shane Kingston had a shot that was waved wide, the puck out was taken, and then the referee stops because he got it in his ear that it was actually a point, and Hawkeye proved that it was a point. Like, we're in Thurles, the technology is there. It's not Ireland final. Like, why? Like, why not just clarify to see, especially if it was in use during the game?
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, Marco, obviously, Hawkeye was obviously there, but the question is whether it was in use or not. And you have to say, TJ, that maybe it wasn't in use. The fact that like Hawkeye can determine that the referee needs to come back and stop the play. So you'd have to say that that didn't happen. Now, whether if it was in play, it would mean then, TJ, that the ball was over the bar and the umpires did get the decision correct, because there's no need to call back Hawkeye or call back the play to look at it. I suppose if it wasn't in play, TJ, and the fact that it was there for the senior game, that would be very, very disappointing, because, you know, it is an All-Ireland final, and I keep coming back to it, you know, for the one incident or two incidents that may occur in the course of a game, if the technology is there, we need to assess the referee. Now, other than that, Thomas Welch, I thought, had a really, really good game. There was nothing controversial in the game. He contributed to it massively. You're right, Clarkie's led in the goal. I had him for 3 saves over the course of the game that he made. I thought he was excellent in goals. As a neutral, it's great to go to the match and not have anything, you know, in terms of who wants to win the game. I was keeping an eye out for Billy Drennan, because I've heard about him since he's 14 years of age from our good friend Jim Doyle. Is the boss, as you know, you guys, and the Galway, in fairness to the Galway, GA Club have a golf classic on in a couple of weeks' time, the 17th and the 18th, and we're invited to it along with all the other Come On Racing members. So that's something that we might see the great Billy Drennan and the All-Ireland Cup, I'm sure, there. But as a neutral at the game yesterday, TJ, I thought the first 15 minutes, I thought you were going to run away with it because your use of the ball was excellent. You were playing it through the lines, and your forwards looked like they had an extra yard on the Kilkenny players. But in typical Kilkenny fashion, two big men, fullback and centre-back, Sean Purcell and Pádraig Moylan. And I'd have to say the clash between Pádraig Moylan and Colin Coughlin in the second half, they came together, and I just said to myself, my God, there were two big, powerful men. And that was a bit of a highlight for me. But Kilkenny, I thought, started to wear ye down, and they were getting in the blocks, the flicks, and they started to win a lot more 50-50 balls. And sure, there was only, I think, one stage during the second half that there was actually 2 points between the teams, and that's when Kilkenny did get 2 points ahead. But I would say, TJ, it was a great final, and it was great that the GA probably picked the match between Cork and Tipp that the final was played beforehand, because I probably wouldn't have went up to see the match or be coming in late. But it was great to get up and see it. And there was a good crowd in for the under-21 final, which was fantastic as well. So
yeah, one other point, Dalo, for me is, and again, full credit to Kilkenny, great winners on the day, and no major complaints this side. I don't think it affected any Kilkenny player, but again, Limerick couldn't play with Cathal O'Neill. Why rob a competition of its best players going forward? I know people have made plenty noise about this, but like when you're playing in All-Ireland under 20 for any teams, whoever are in it for the next number of years, like if you go to the match, you want to see the best players in that grade play. And Limerick, unfortunately, yesterday, because of this rule, whoever's idea was, I just don't agree with it, and I know loads of people don't agree with it, but why rob Cathal O'Neill of playing in All-Ireland under 20 final? It is madness.
Yeah, it's a fucking disgraceful rule. It's a football rule foisted on us again.
Correct.
They wanted to mind David Clifford a couple of years ago, and fair play to David Clifford,
right.
A brilliant footballer, a joy to watch. But why inflict this on us? Everyone was quite happy to let their 20s back in the day, their 21s, play the Wednesday night.
That's right.
And go back to panel. It's just mind-boggling that the young fella was doing hurleys there yesterday and gutted the guys he started off playing under 14 with. 6 years later, he been allowed to play with him because he's a very good player. Just shocking rule.
Yeah, and Dalo, not alone, and TJ, not alone to deny us, the spectators, of watching Cathal O'Neill, but possibly deny the 26 lads on the Limerick panel the opportunity to win an All-Ireland medal yesterday. I think that's the bigger travesty. That we're not saying that they'd have won it, but they'd have a better chance of winning an All-Ireland medal with him involved. And let the managements decide whether they want to play Cathal O'Neill or not, or if he's been exhausted. But to bring in a rule to stop your best players from playing is not a good rule for any sport.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking from a parochial point of view, Mark, he got 1-1 against Clare in injury time to knock out Clare by a point. Now Cork's up to there's still a chance against Cork, but if he wasn't there that night, bring it in. Anyone in the senior panel lads can't play. But no, look, all wrong. Lads, it's hard to believe they haven't won it since 2008. Team with TJ, Richie Hogan, Colin Fennelly. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, and no All-Ireland since 2015 for Kilkenny. I met a few Kilkenny lads yesterday, and they were delighted to get the win. And as I said to you, just a different style of play. They found a way, and as I said, like, people won't like to hear that they play with an out-and-out sweeper system, but it worked for them yesterday. And I suppose, look, that's the way the game has gone. It's horses for courses, and as you said there, Dalo, the word emerging people all over the place. And look, he has been the greatest manager of all times, but I'm sure at some point along the way, people will say, like, maybe it's time to give some of these other boys a shot at it. Like, so, yeah, they've been very good. But fair play to Derek Ling and his crew, yeah.
Yeah, congrats to those. That's about it, lads. The old fantasy was on again there, TJ. You hadn't your captain at all. Was rested. What's after?
Yeah, I've been
what's
lucky
going on here,
and
lads?
unlucky.
I'm down in fourth here. What's
down in fourth?
There's no surprise there. This is championship. A bit like the Cork Rising. A bit like the Cork Rising, Dalo. Two weekends in a row, topping the poll. 251 points for the week. 265 last week. I've gone from being on the right-hand side of the page, coming back over to the left-hand side, and I have Sheedy in my eye line now, kid. After beating you now, after putting you behind me, I've Sheedy as the next on the list.
I'm not beaten yet, like. But yeah.
No,
fairness,
there's a bit to go yet. There's a bit to
and
go.
TJ, you're streaking further ahead there. In fairness, Joe.
Dalo, to be honest, my defensive lineup and midfield have been excellent for me. I've been a little bit unlucky with the way the championship has fallen, because the previous week Aaron Gillan was rested, and this week my captain Tony Kelly was rested. So I think yesterday, if Tony Kelly had played, given the amount of space and ball Clare had, I'm not sure what TK would have ended up with, and been double points. It would have been really good for me. I could be out of sight. But look, I'm kind of, given the week there was, and I knew TK was rested, I'm happy with 211 points. David Fitzgerald came good for me, and Desi. I've been watching Desi all year, waiting for him to come alive to get 1-6. Obviously, the Waterford system over the last couple of games hasn't suited him, but big return yesterday. But yeah, I suppose the interesting piece now for all of us is it's a change week, so we can have a look at things before the finals and see who's gone out of the championship and who do we want to change, and
would there be 6 changes?
Who have you got? No, we have 3 changes, is it, or 4? Is it?
Must be gone up.
It's gone up, I'd say. It's gone up yeah.
Yeah, so it's 24, I think.
See, I got my strategy wrong there. Like, I thought Clare would be third, and I'd be shipping in my Clare lads in for preliminary quarter-final, and I presume they'll count, even though the Antrim and Kerry lads wouldn't have been in the scoring all along. I presume if you're in a preliminary like Wexford and Cork lads, I got it wrong. I went deep on Waterford in, thinking they'd definitely be in the 3 in Munster, so strategy wrong. But anyway, I'll have to go back. Like Dublin and Tipp and Waterford, I have to just go back to the...
Listen, don't worry about it. I know it's a bit unusual to see you behind me at this stage. Like, I did it in the league. I've made a good recovery there now, a bit like the Cork Hurlers over the last couple of weeks. Don't be disappointed, Dale. I'm in front of you now. Look, don't be trying to blame the strategy. Like, the rules are the same for everybody. Like,
Marco, I've kind of no problem with TJ or Liam.
Marco, huh?
I see there's no change at the bottom of the table for the wooden spoon boys. It's a straight shootout between Shawnee and Owen Cadigan.
Yeah, Hogan has pulled away there. Yeah, straight shootout. Shawnee's off the bottom, though. He was bottom, was he? No, it was on bottom.
He was bottom, yeah. The 4.5 million house in the Blackrock Road.
3.5. 3.5. What about our listeners' league, lads? Rafe, have you got that there? Oh, yeah. New and Ross Kelly from Naas, Kildare Hurler, 234. Savage gone on out ahead. No longer the Whipping Boys, hadn't a great week. Johnny O'Connor. Shane Hassett from Drummond Inch, Clare coach. The Gaelic Hassett Drive from all his years. He's up to second. Well done, Shane. And Kieran Kenrick, Thomas Lally. TJ, you've slipped a bit on this one, down to 9th.
I have. Well, essentially, that's where TK has cost me. Yeah, Tomas Lally in 4th place is a brother of Kevin Lally. I told you before. He is up spreading the gospel up north now, and he had challenged me there recently. I met him for a beer, and I had passed him out, but he has now turned the screw and gone ahead of me. So challenge on for me there to catch him between now and the end of the championship.
There's a man there in 7th. I think Brendan Noonan. He would have been one of the fellas. I'm almost certain that he had that axe to grind with me from 1990. He was on the minor panel that we beat Clare in minor, and he came to Gordon Park the first day. So a shout out to Brendan. He's there in 7th position. That leaderboard. Do you know what? You're not so far off the top, TJ. Next weekend.
No.
Could be top.
Next weekend is a quiet weekend, so we got to get our strategy for the finals match. Right now. Yeah, next match. Yeah. So
I'll let you know who's injured and who's not injured. Anyway.
Okay, thanks.
I think TK got injured in the warm down yesterday. You know, the bit the subs do. I think TK pulled something, but look, it could be a Mark Landers type rumor. You wouldn't know. Any
fake news, Dalo?
Yeah, I have two. Dalo. First of all, not one that people would normally associate with me, but during the game yesterday, there was people in front of me that were talking about football. And the great Pat Sheehan from Rakiel GA Club was reminding me that they have a competition coming up on June the 18th in memory of Shane Horgan, the referee. It's the big ball sevens, and this year they've added a ladies competition, so a 7-a-side competition for all the football teams in Limerick. So he was asking me to get a reminder out to the clubs there that they want you to get you registered, and normally a good fun day in memory of Shane Horgan. Great ref, great character. He refereed there in my time, and Shane would give it to you pretty strong that if you were out of line, a bit like Fergal Horgan, told you straight. Wasn't really a big believer in the red cards either, which was great. But yeah, competition, just a reminder for people. And the second one for me is, and I'll let Marco finish with the Come On Racing, is just to say that we're in Bylanders this Saturday night coming. Myself and Dalo will be talking about the Munster final. It's the only item on the agenda. Marco is coming along as well. But it's going to be, there's 2 items on the agenda, Marco: the Munster hurling final and the Leinster hurling final, and nothing else.
Champions
League.
League.
If you want to come along, Champions League beforehand, yeah. But we won't be talking about that Rebels and their recent rise again. So if people want to come along and meet us this Saturday night in Bylanders Clubhouse, it's a fundraiser there. Just remembering my uncle, the great Dave Walsh. So a bit of fun this Saturday night. It's a down weekend for the hurling. So if you want to come along and get your picture with Marco and you want to hear about the Rebels, shave for Dave. This Saturday night in Bylanders Clubhouse, 8 o'clock. We'll have the Champions League as well, Marco. Hopefully Liverpool in 90 minutes will pull that off, and we'll have the Liverpool hat and the scarf in the audience. And sure, you never know. You might even be one of us rather than a City fan by the end of the night.
I'll be definitely going out.
Will he come in the 99 jersey?
I wouldn't fit into it. But what I will do on the night is, if I can find a Real Madrid red jersey or white jersey, I'll definitely wear it if I can find one. And I'd probably be the only fella.
A double X Madrid jersey.
Yeah.
Send it on to Kilkenny.
Would a Spurs one qualify, Dalo, if you had one of them? I could use one of yours, maybe.
Good, Larry. Yeah, should be good crack. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
Down weekend in the hurling, so we'll be able to, quick shout out, lads, to the lads and the lovely lady that was with them from Ballydufflore, Calum Lyons' club, who were up for the weekend, had booked an apartment up in Cree, and we had a good crack Saturday. They landed on, they had a good day. And the Kilfenora boys, a quick shout out, who called after playing Killimer in the County League. I don't know if it went well for them or not, but they were in good form. Long way away from me, but if they're anywhere in the vicinity, they call in the lads from the Burn. So, come on, have we any runners, Mark, this week?
No runners. we got a glut of them at the very start, and their form mightn't have been brilliant. But I was talking to Jim Bolger during the week, so he's given him 10 days off, and he's strengthening him back up to have another run and have another go in the middle of June. But I suppose the big date for the diary is the 9th of July in Willie Mullins' yard, somewhere around 10 o'clock, 10:30 that way. He's going to show us around the place, bring us to the gallop, see a couple of the horses walking, obviously see Katie Tay walking as well. So the 9th of July is a big date for us. We also have a golf classic with Galway GA Club on the 17th and 18th of June. So they've extended a welcome to all members of Come On Racing to get a team of 4, 160 euros, and it's a scramble. So you don't have to be a brilliant golfer. Just come away and play your 40 euros, meet a couple of the ambassadors on the day, and we'll have a bit of crack. And I suppose the last one is that Willie McCreary has sent the word out that the 3-year-old is working very well. Big, powerful filly. We've had 20 names have come in from the members, so we have to fill in the naming card this week. So all will be revealed, I would say, in time, Dalo, on the name of the 3-year-old. Let's hope that she doesn't get injured and she does herself. And the membership, I suppose. Look, we have 70% of the membership is collected already. So we'll be just saying to people, look, to try and get on the website and pay the membership. If you're having difficulty with it, because I had a bit of difficulty and I had a couple of friends of mine who were trying to sign in, they just said, look, email us in if you're having difficulty and we'll make contact with you. But thank you very much for the people who have supported it. And we want to obviously facilitate the 500 people that have expressed an interest. But I'd have to say, since the website has opened, I think we may have a couple of new people that we don't know anything about who have paid their money. So we'll welcome you in due course as well. But it has been a brilliant success. and we want to get everybody signed up as soon as possible.
Dalo, to the tune of Dermot Kennedy's song, what I would say about Come On Racing is better days are coming.
Definitely.
Jesus, you're getting awful fond of these lyrics. The 9th of July, lads, unfortunately, not a good day for me. It's the day before 5 bands and a pig out the back here. So I'd be up to me ears. But lads, anyone that can go for a Willie Mullen stable tour, my God, that sounds like a place I'd like to be. We'll get there. Yeah. Katie Tay, watch this space. Okay, we'll have a break next week, I think, lads, will we?
Break next week. Yeah, we're just going for a little bit of sustenance in Ballylanders on Saturday night.
Roll on. Okay, guys. Top stuff.
Hey, mama, on the TV wrong. Come and love you, daddy, all night long.
And you? What do you do?
It's a bit complicated to explain.
Hey.
You know, I still didn't get exactly what your job is.
That's what I do.
New Renault Arcana E-Tech Hybrid from €299 per month on the road. Winner, Irish Medium Crossover SUV in the 2022 Car of the Year Awards.
A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game. Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.